Okay, hello everybody. We've got about 20 minutes here. We're going to have a different discussion, sort of building on the last discussion that Duncan had with Dr. Wong and Dr. Yang. And of course, I had 100% comprehension of that last discussion, no problem. No, it was easy for you. Easy for you. No, it was actually it's a pleasure to have some real developers and experts attending these events. We don't get that many of them. But I'm going to switch the focus now more to the business model. So I think we all know, broadly speaking, why we're here today, which is that you're developing blockchain solutions that are meant to be usable and secure once quantum computing becomes mature enough that it could unzip or unlock the traditional hashes that to date have safeguarded Bitcoin and every other digital asset out there. But let's go back to what is the actual use case for Abelian that you're imagining? What's beyond the simple concept of, and an oversimplify, but the broad concept of quantum safety? What is the use case that you're trying to solve within this ecosystem, and who is it for?
Yeah, that's a very good and fundamental question that we actually need to have that in mind from day one when we start working on this. I would consider every single blockchain, public blockchain as a key. I will call it the operating system. So it's basically a platform, an operating system that we want to build use cases there. So that we will be able to enable other people to build their stuff as well. So for Abelian, just like if you just put aside Abelian a little bit and think about Ethereum, what would be the use cases for Abelian, for Ethereum?
Smart contract.
The smart contract, and then how are you going to use the smart contract? So you start asking yourself questions one step at a time with the smart contract. And then with the smart contract, you can build apps. And then with the dApps, you can have DeFi's, you can have like different kinds of access to do the exchanges. You can even hodl, right? Hodl your access. To us, Abelian, for the layer one, it does not have smart contract. So what kind of use case that do you have? Then you may think about what other features you have. Post-quantum is the foundation. Privacy is actually our use case. So when I talk about privacy, I'm talking about privacy advocates. Definitely, like if you think about fully private, that kind of extreme, like Monero or Zero Cash, a lot of people they are actually using Monero or Zero Cash, kind of like hodling it, kind of like a digital gold. For Abelian, definitely that can be used for sure. It's even better because it's quantum system already. But I would say we are actually looking into more applications that are more enterprise. So, for example, if you think about VPN concept on Abelian, you can actually run your own digital asset-based application, say cross-border payment, by using Abels, by using our token, or even we have a protocol which is called Abelian User Token protocol that you can issue your own token, even including stablecoins. That early on we talk about the stablecoin. They are all post-quantum. They can do the cross-border payment easily, and they can ensure their privacy easily as well, because the privacy is by design. So I would say the use case over here, one area is really the privacy part. The second area is really considering that as the digital gold 2.0. And then the third area is to consider Abelian as a foundation for other chains to become post-quantum.
And digital gold, privacy, foundation for other things. On that third one, you said that you did not build this like Ethereum with smart contracts. Why?
One reason is because of the technical challenges. And to be more precise, the blockchain trilemma, we talk about the decentralization, security, and scalability. I really think that there will be conflict between these three, even from the technical perspective.
So there's still the trilemma.
Yes, I still deeply believe in. This is why I've been working on this for more than 10 years by now. So, for example, like Abelian, we use POW. Why? Because we want security.
Proof of work.
Proof of work. And we're thinking about a 51% attack, but if you think about POS, we are talking about 33% in order to control the finality of those transactions, right? So POW still gives us the security that we want. Another reason is that actually in the previous session, we talked about the post-quantum signature schemes. They have big signature size, they have huge key sizes. So each block will not be able to fit so many transactions in.
So it's going to be even slower, fewer transactions per second, higher gas fees than Bitcoin.
Exactly. So,
so then who's going to use this if it's going to be slower and more expensive? I get that there's this privacy element for some people that might be important, but what's the, or maybe just generically, it's not going to get unlocked in the future because of quantum computing advancements. But who then would want to be using something that has these drawbacks?
So just think about, that's a good question. Just think about Bitcoin. So when we say Bitcoin is not usable, the answer is no. It depends on what kind of use cases that you have, right? We can still do some very limited payment. We can run Lightning protocol on top of it to speed that up. So that's why I still consider Abelian as the foundation. Actually, we are faster than Bitcoin. But this is just the fundamental layer for achieving security and decentralization. But Abelian has been designed versatile enough so that we can build applications on top of it. So we have this Q day. The Q day is more than 1,000 transactions per second. The gas fee is very low. But Q day is actually relying on Abelian to achieve the post-quantum or the quantum resistance. And also it's relying on Abelian to achieve the decentralization as well, with all the GPU cards mining over there. So it really depends on the applications. If you are just doing some transaction between your asset wallets, that's fine. You can just use Abelian right away. In fact, you can just download the Abelian Pro mobile wallet or use the desktop wallet. If you are geeky enough, you can use the CLI command prompt to play around with Abelian right now. But if you are talking about, say, some DeFi applications that you need 500 transactions per second to the minimum, then we need to move up to Q-Day layer, so you can still enjoy the post-quantumness, and also you can still enjoy the privacy that we are actually working on. We are working on more of the privacy layers for both Abelian as well as Q-Day.
The world has a lot of L1s. There's a lot of blockchains out there. What was the decision to build a new one that was quantum safe versus trying to take existing infrastructure and upgrade it?
Back to actually 2017, as I mentioned earlier today, we started thinking about this idea. Actually, at the very beginning, we were thinking about making a proposal to Bitcoin network, to make Bitcoin network quantum resistance. As cryptographer ourselves, we would like to contribute to the blockchain industry by making it better, more secure, more decentralized. So that's actually how we began the whole thing, by upgrading Bitcoin. But while we are looking into Bitcoin system, we are seeing a lot of legacy or historical limitations, if you will, that will actually restrain our innovation. For example, like if we want to introduce the lattice-based signature scheme into Bitcoin, we need to do a soft fork. We need to, we actually need to do some kinds of hard fork if we need to add in a little bit more privacy, because the data structure, everything need to be changed. So actually, at that time, back to 6 years ago, we look into like different chains. Different chains will have their unique value propositions. So for us, that's why from day one, after thinking that we cannot just upgrade Bitcoin right away, we are thinking about setting up a another great foundation. It's not an isolated foundation, by the way. It's a great platform so that we can actually support other chains to become post-quantum. So other chains do not need to spend their time or reinvent the wheel to set up their own post-quantum security. They can just ride on Abelian. Some of the folks say Abelian is layer 0. Strictly speaking, I don't know how to define layer 0, but basically we are the quantum resistant foundation that we can build and also create the bridges in order to upgrade other chains to post-quantum.
L1 obviously is the settlement layer. What's the Bitcoin is unique because of its origins, right? I mean, it came out of nowhere. And it is the most decentralized of these coins out there. We can debate whether or not it's truly decentralized, but that's for another day. In your case, though, you're trying to build something very consciously with a marketing, much like a traditional token launch, a marketing plan, and so on. Everybody has their dream of being the one. So how much moat do you have? How you put this out? How easy or difficult would it be for someone else to have maybe not as brilliant as the two professors, but similar skills behind a similar development that could compete? And then we're back to, instead of sort of a unique or quasi-unique decentralized Bitcoin, and then other things that are very different, you end up with two L1s that are fighting over the same turf. So how have you sort of thought about that competitive issue and that potential threat?
Yeah. So I just want to sidetrack a little bit, and then it's related to this question, is that if you look into those cryptographic academic conferences, we usually, before the Bitcoin era, we call that crypto conferences, right? Because that crypto stands for cryptography. So like every year there is a crypto conference just called Crypto in Santa Barbara. And if you go there and count the number of cryptographers, there are around 300. And those 300 cryptographers are coming from all over the world. So we usually joke about, like, in the world, if you want to find somebody who will be able to understand our white paper, understand every single equation, maybe just this 300 people. So, and then if you think about these 300 people, and then you think about setting up another chain, which is post-quantum, you just need to handpick from these 300 people, go to crypto and found them. And actually, luckily, I got two already over here. Actually, I have another one in Australia, but he couldn't make it today. So what I want to say is that, yeah, totally, it's doable. We even put the source code on the GitHub, so everybody can download. But the most important thing is about the critical mass. The critical mass, what I mean is that whether you already have a strong community, if you have a strong community, you will be able to attract or draw like-minded people to continue building on top of it. And that's why, for Abelian, this is a not-for-profit organization. We publish all the source codes, and right now we have tens of thousands of GPU cards mining Abelian right now already, and it's growing. And also we have more exchanges supporting us as well. So I think it's all about the concerted effort to build this kind of ecosystem. And also the unique proposition for Abelian, this ecosystem, is all about quantum resistance as well as practice preserving.
The Bitcoin story has its own share of drama, forks, Bitcoin Cash, blah, blah, blah. A lot of lawsuits and all kinds of, infighting with this developer community. Disagreements over whether or not to cap the final number of coins ever mined. Do you expect that Abelian will also go through something like that, or is that a concern? Would you prefer not to see that sort of action happen, or just how do you think about the fact that you're trying to build something, a quantum version of Bitcoin, but it could also go through some of these dramas?
So right now we have this foundation which is not for profit, and then we have a roadmap to make it as a DAO structure. So I'm not going to share a lot more about the DAO part, but definitely we are talking to a lot of friends, investors, shareholders, and also supporters about how we are going to make sure this is as decentralized and as democratic as possible. Speaking of potential hard fork from that, I think it's a happy problem. It's not a solution, but it is a problem, but it's a happy problem. It actually draws more attention to this field, draw more supporters to this. And actually, if you look into Bitcoin Cash, and all that, different kinds of hard forks, the Bitcoin original is still the number one. It's still the mainstream. And then every single fork will have their own little proposition. And this is actually great to the entire ecosystem. We will actually consider in the future, if you see any kinds of hard fork from Abelian, we will consider that as part of the family, a part of this entire ecosystem.
Last question, Duncan. When Bitcoin emerged in 2008, call it, it was, it kind of blindsided everybody. In fact, nobody actually knew it was there for many years. And particularly regulators, central bankers, commercial banks, etc. And then, of course, there's been a flurry of regulation around this since, in the past several years particularly. Some jurisdictions varying in their approaches. When we talk about privacy, what are we talking about really? What is private, and how, now that you're launching this in an era where regulators do pay attention to what goes on in blockchain and cryptocurrency, when they do have increasing rules and also an increasing connectivity between the crypto world and the traditional finance world or the traditional enterprise world, how do you think about what privacy means and how you're going to pitch this vis-a-vis regulators, particularly those that would look askance at Monero or Zcash?
So if you are running a totally private network like Tornado Cash, as an example, you are basically just hiding the entire transaction, going from one party to another, and none of them would be KYC, right? That may bring trouble in some of the jurisdictions if you operate in that jurisdiction. But if you think about privacy in a more fine-grained way, for example, say, I have the privacy to the public, which means, for example, if I transfer some ABLs to Jame, say, the folks over there will not be able to know how many ABLs I transfer to you, that's fine. But for example, say, in some of the jurisdictions, you might need a third party to be able to audit all the transactions because of some enterprise applications. That's the fine-grained privacy I'm talking about. And this is actually what we want to achieve. And we have certain milestones already achieved. For example, like the viewing key I mentioned early on. In fact, we make use of some pseudonymity proof technologies to fine-grain the privacy part. So at least at the very beginning, we can make sure all the transactions and your wallet balance are kept private. And that's the privacy I'm talking about. But with this kind of foundation, you may have authorities or some third parties that you are required or you are willing to share your, say, wallet balance with, or you are willing to share some of your transaction details with. Then you can actually make use of this technology to achieve it. So that's why we are trying to achieve this fine-grained privacy, and for both Abelian layer as well as the QA layer. Yeah.
Okay, great. So not going to be giving compliance and SFC, etc. officials a heart attack.
Definitely not. We will actually love to work with them and try to find out their pain points and see whether we as technologists will be able to support them as well.
Okay. That's the end of our session. Ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for Duncan. Thank you.
Thank you very much.